Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Perperis. We do not have Brenna on the line, but we do have another athlete on, and he's a Hammer Nutrition athlete, so I'm super excited. This episode is brought to you by Hammer Nutrition. Hammer Nutrition makes the best endurance supplements in the world. I'm a huge fan of them. I've been using them for all my ultra-endurance obstacle course races, as well as using them for shorter stuff. Their gels I highly recommend. Their Perpetuum is unmatched, which is a carb-fat-protein blend, so it's making sure you're using all those pathways to maximize your fueling, and then the protein prevents your muscles from breaking down while you're doing these, 2+ hour events. Their heat is also good, which would be like the replacement of Gatorade, so it's carbs and electrolytes. And then my other favorite thing is REM caps. So it's pills you take, and it has melatonin in it and some other stuff, and it helps you sleep deeply at night, which is great for before a big race when your nerves are high, or if you're doing like Toughest Mudder, that's a nighttime race and you need to sleep in the middle of the day. That's what I take to help me sleep in the middle of the day. All right, so today on the line we have Anders Jakobsson. He is an ultra-distance swimmer. I'm going to give a quick read of his bio, and then we'll say hi to him. So, kind of has an interesting background that fits well with the Strength and Speed podcast. 1997, he was the USPF national champion in a 198-pound weight class in deadlift with a 683-pound pull, so ranked 21st in the world. 1999, did the Marine Corps Marathon, time of 3:56-ish. 1999 to 2002, started swimming. 2000 to 2015, did a bunch of triathlons, so sprints, a couple Olympic distance, did the Escape from Alcatraz, kind of a famous one there, half Ironman, one full Ironman, which he ended up getting medically pulled after the bike due to a high fever and a very high heart rate. 2014, swam across Chesapeake Bay in Virginia Beach, which is 17.6 miles, in 11 hours and 28 minutes, despite bad weather. Let's see what else we got here. 10 Alcatraz to San Francisco crossings, 1 naked the day after his wedding, 2 Golden Gate crossings, 1 Angle Island to San Francisco crossing, no wetsuit, and he's planning on swimming the English Channel on September 16th this year. So Anders, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this episode we're going to be talking about marathon swimming, some fueling, some training, and crossover points with OCR. So I guess let's first start off with, what distance does marathon swimming start, or ultra distance swimming, whatever the appropriate term is?
Well, marathon swimming starts at any swim that's a 10K or longer.
Oof.
So you're talking 6.2 miles, because in the marathon swimming community, most people can swim a 5K without fueling. So when you step up from a 5K to a 10K, you have to start fueling, and that is the biggest difference.
Gotcha. And approximately how long is it taking someone to do a 5K versus a 10K swim?
Well, if you're a decent swimmer, a 5K, an hour and a half, a 10K, 3 hours.
Whew. All right, that is way faster than my Ironman, my Ironman pace. I'm not the best swimmer. I'm just stubborn and kind of got my way through it. But that is impressive. I know. So how I met you, or how I've met you digitally rather, is Hammer Nutrition has a sponsored athletes groups, and you're in there, and you often post workouts that make me nauseous, right? Like, they're just insane swimming distances. And this is coming from a guy who does ultra-distance obstacle course racing. So I'm just very impressed that you're able to swim that far. And I want to get into that a little bit more. But first, let's back up a little. So how did you go from powerlifting, which is what you were doing in the late 90s, into endurance sports?
Well, more or less in 1997, I won the state championship in powerlifting in Montana. And I was I was supposed to retire after the state championship, and I pulled a new state record in Montana at that meet. This was in February. So I officially retired, but then I got a call from Nationals and said, we will pay you if you come to Nationals just in deadlift. And I said, well, I can't turn that down. So I went there and I cleaned house. I won everything there. And then after that, they wanted to send me to Worlds. And I said, no, enough is enough. My body has had enough. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I know when it's time to change. When your body, you have to listen to your body, and sometimes your body can't take it more. So I decided to hang that up, and I was just, I got to run a marathon sometime in my life, so why not start now? And that's how I went from powerlifting to marathon running, and I ran the Marine Corps Marathon in '99, and I was really hooked on the longer distances instead of the shorter distances where you have a really high heart rate. And I didn't really enjoy running that much. So I thought, well, I got the running part down. At the time, I was swimming for the United States Navy as a rescue swimmer. So I'm swimming, I'm running. Why don't we throw a bike in the middle? And now we got a triathlon. So that's how that came all about. And I did that for 12 years. And then more or less I got tired of the gear in triathlon because, it's very expensive. And I decided to just focus on swimming. And that's where we are now.
And so when you were doing the triathlon, were you always really good at swimming? And then you were just like, all right, well, why am I doing these other two sports in addition to it? Or was it just something you enjoyed a little more?
Yeah, I was competitive in swimming. I was very good at swimming. Last time I did Escape from Alcatraz, I beat some of the female pros. And then, I had 1,900 people pass me on the bike. So, it was like I was a good swimmer, lower than average biker, and a sucky runner.
You're like the opposite of me. I'm a poor swimmer. I get a little bit better on the bike, and then my run's my strong point. So
yeah, so it was like, there's too much gear. There's too much into this. Swimming, it's so simple. You only need water, technically. Now, swimsuit is good so you don't get arrested, and a pair of goggles and a cap might help too. Mm-hmm. But other than that, you only need water. And then the whole logistics about a marathon swim is kind of intriguing because it's so many parts into it. But if you talk swimming in general, it's very simple.
All right, so half Ironman, the swim is 1.2 miles. Full Ironman, the swim is 2.4. How did you make that transition into ultra distance swimming or marathon swimming?
I always enjoyed the longer stuff. I don't know. I think it's more my personality that maybe I like the pain a little longer than just short. And also, when it comes to when you start talking real marathon swimming, you have the whole crew aspect, and I'm a week away from swimming the English Channel, and you have to have everything like that lined up beforehand. And like my wife, she's my crew chief, and once we get to England, I have no say in anything. It's like between her and my pilot, they take care of everything. I just have one job, and that is very simple. I get in England, and I get out in France.
Jeez. So how far is that swim?
Well, straight across is 21 miles. But with the current, you're going to swim closer to 26, 28 miles. Because first you get swept north and then south, and then depending on how fast you are, you go north again.
Wow. And then how long, do you have an estimate of how long it's going to take you to finish?
I estimate
like maybe a high, low, and like a...
Yeah. If I have decent weather, 14 to 16 hours. If I have good weather, 12 to 14 hours. If I have, and anything longer than that, then it's going to be a really bad day. Hopefully not.
So when you're doing the swim, is your pit crew passing you fuel? Like, give me some of the logistics behind it. Are you wearing a wetsuit, stuff like that?
No, we swim skin, so there's never a wetsuit involved. We're only allowed to wear regular swimsuit, cap, goggles, and how the swim goes down is I swim an hour 15 before I take my first feeding. And then I take my second feeding at 45 minutes later, so now we're at 2 hours. And then after that, I take feedings every 30 minutes until I'm done.
Okay, and when you're feeding, are you just treading water, or are you actually getting out of the water and getting in the boat?
No, there's no touching at all. They will have a cup on a line, and they throw the cup in the water in front of me. I swim up to the cup, I drink it, and they pull the cup up, and I keep swimming.
Interesting.
So the feedings takes about 10 seconds.
Interesting. So what are you primarily using for fuel during this?
During the swim is primary perpetuum.
Good choice there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this kind of stuff, and you can probably attest to that too. It's all about the fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And for this specific swim, is this a competitive event? Are there other people doing it with you, or is this a just you and your crew type thing?
Just me and my crew. It is one swimmer per one boat, and on a good day you can have up to 6 boats in the water at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And a little bit of history about the English Channel is there's been less than 2,000 people who has completed the English Channel. So there's very few.
Yeah. And is that like for the marathon swimming community, is that like a bucket list item? Is that like everyone's like holy grail?
That's Mount Everest. That's, that is this swim to do. Gotcha.
So let's talk a little bit more about the marathon swimming community. Is there a world championship?
Not per se. Well, you have the 10K world championship, and in those races they allow wetsuits. So you have a 10K circuit that they travel all over the world, and it's even in the Olympics now where they swim 10Ks.
Oh,
and
wow.
They pick that distance because those guys, they swim that about 2 hours. So the same as a marathon running, marathon. But on these ultra marathon swims, there is not a world championship.
So is there a best endurance swimmer that everyone, like in ultra-ocr, there's a guy named Ryan Atkins who basically wins every race that we have. Is there a equivalent in the ultra swimming community?
There's many good swimmers, many good swimmers. And Sarah Thomas from Colorado, she's helped me quite a bit. She swam last year 104.6 miles nonstop, non-current assisted, because there's different classification what kind of swims you do. If you swim in the ocean, you have salt water and it might be current assisted. But what Sarah Thomas did was she swam in Lake Champlain, and she swam one way round an island and back, so there was no current. And that took her 67 hours and 16 minutes.
Oof.
And there's no touching. She has to stay in the water the whole time. She gets fed from the boat, and that's the whole. You get in, you swim, and you feed, and you finish.
Now, are they switching between strokes when you're doing something like this, or like what's the primary stroke?
It's freestyle.
Okay.
There is some people who swim like English Channel and stuff like that. There is some that do the backstroke or the freestyle or butterfly and breaststroke, like specific strokes to do that. There's also other there is something called Ocean 7, which are the 7 toughest ocean swims in the world. And English Channel is one of them. And with those swims, there's only, I believe the number is 13 right now. There are 13 swimmers who have conquered the Ocean 7. So, and we have quite a few, we have several here in our club, South End Rowing Club, that I swim for here in San Francisco. So it's a very unique group of people.
So one of the things, I've done some triathlons where it's open water, and unlike a pool you can see the bottom, you can see the lane lines, right? There's a little more sensory going on. When you're in the ocean, it's just like looking into blackness, or like basically the same color as the water. I'm just kind of curious of like what that is like, and I guess how do you deal with that, or is it just something you enjoy?
I enjoy it a lot, and one thing that I do is, everybody has their own little thing, what they keep their mind on, and I do math problems. So I take a random 3-digit number, and I try to divide it with a random odd number, and I try to figure it out. And then I try to prove it. And that takes me, that could take me 20 minutes or something like that. And, and then it's time to feed, and you see wildlife around you. There's always wildlife around you, and it's always interesting. And you never know what you're going to encounter when you swim in the open water.
Have you ever seen anything like really crazy out in the open water? Like a shark or anything?
Of course.
Of course, right, yeah. I always swim with the sharks. That makes sense.
I swam from Golden Gate to Aquatic Park here in San Francisco last year, and we had whales breaching, not too far away from us, and we had, dolphins, sea lions, seals, all kinds of animals.
Interesting.
Now the seals, they can be quite playful. So the harbor seals, they come up and they bump you or swim under you, almost rub into you. And they're just playing, and you just have to get over it. It startles you a little bit, but you still got to just swim.
Crazy. I went swimming in the ocean in Greece, and the coolest thing I've ever seen was a sea turtle swam underneath me. And he swam with me underneath for, I don't know, maybe like 30 seconds, and then he veered off path. So that's my one exciting swim story. That's it. That's all I got.
Most of the waters that I swim in are dark, so you don't see too much unless something come up really close to you. But sometimes you feel them. They come up and test you out. So that happens.
There's a large population that's terrified of essentially deep water that they can't see the bottom of. So I'm sure you're making some people nervous just listening to this podcast. But
yes, the deep is kind of interesting you bring that up. One time when I was crossing the Atlantic Ocean on a Navy destroyer, I got to get off in the middle of the Atlantic and to do drills with my swim buddy. And I looked up on the sea charts afterward. It was 12,000 feet deep.
That's insane.
And you feel pretty small when you do something like that. You look down in the water and you're just wondering how many eyes are looking at me right now.
Yeah. So when you're ever doing these swimming, either in training or for an actual event like you're going to be doing later this month, do you ever listen to headphones? Or no?
Nope. I used to do that in pool training, but I stopped that a couple of years ago because it's just one of those things. We're not allowed to use anything. I can't even wear a GPS watch when I do the English Channel.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It's just the rules, how they're written. I mean, there will be a GPS tracker on my boat, but on me personally, there will not be a GPS.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's start talking about your training a little bit more. Give us like an average or a normal week when preparing for like a major swim event for you. Like how many times a day are you swimming, what distances you're doing, etc. Rest days.
I try to swim 6 days a week, and a peak week will be somewhere around 30 miles a week.
Which translates to how many hours? Ish?
Cut it in half.
Okay.
So 15 hours. And I go up and down, so it would be like, let's say I swim 2 miles on Monday, 4 miles on Tuesday, and then 1 mile on Wednesday, and then I'd probably take Thursday off. And then Friday would be a little longer, so that would be 8 miles, and then Saturday 12 miles, and then an easy 4 miler on Sunday again.
Oof. And are you doing this in open water or in pool primarily?
All open water right now. I stopped pool swimming April 30th this year.
Gotcha. Specifically to get ready for this event? Is that why you stopped pool swimming?
Yeah. It's all because of water temperature, and there's no boxes in the ocean.
Yeah. Now, do you do any interval training, or it's because you're so focused on endurance, that's just where you just keep doing sport-specific activity?
I do endurance interval training. Like when I did my pool works, I do ladders and sprint work and stuff like that. But after April 30th, then I switch it up even when I swim in the open water, I can swim sprints. They can be up to 2 hour long, and then I can do coasting, which is, where you just go out and swim your marathon pace.
And then what about cross training? Any sort of cross training besides swimming?
No, it hasn't been too much. We did some little fun here over the winter, and we did some ballroom dancing just to get out of the whole swimming. I just wanted to do something different, but not really.
Gotcha. Okay. And now, so you've swam Alcatraz, I believe, 10 times. So
Correct.
What's that like? And, I think from movies and stuff, that's always, at least like from a non-swimmer's perspective, that's always considered like a big deal. Like what is it that makes that a big deal, or is it a big deal?
It is a big deal. You definitely have to get prepared for the cold. If you're not ready for the cold, it will be a tough swim for you. And then conditions can be, it's a relatively short swim is 1.2 miles swim, and you can have all the sea states from totally flat to white caps and back to flats again during that swim. So it's very unpredictable, and you never know what you're going to have. And then, of course, you have to time the tides right. If you're going to swim into aquatic park, because the opening into aquatic park is only 50 yards across, compared to if you do a beach landing further down the beach, that's fine. But if you're going to swim into aquatic park, it's only 50 yards, and you gotta know when to jump so you hit it, because otherwise, I mean, you have the current out here ripping 5 knots and you can't swim. I mean, once you blow past, you're gone.
Right.
You can't come back.
Interesting. So out of all these crazy swim stuff you've done, which event are you most proud of?
It was probably the 4 years ago when I swam across Chesapeake Bay, because that was my first true long distance swim. It was 17.6 miles, and we had some bad weather, and I more or less we didn't know much how to set it up, and we kind of winged it, and it worked out, and it was just okay. Don't quit.
How do you stay away from those dark places and avoid quitting?
The crew. You have to have a good crew, and you go into the very dark places in your head, and you want to quit, and you want to get out, and it's like pain is temporary, and victory is forever. And you just have to dig deep. And do you want to swim for 14 hours and be a mile away from shore, and do you want to quit then and come back a year later and then finish it, or are you going to finish it now?
Gotcha. Love it. Now, what is it that keeps you coming back to marathon swimming?
It's the challenge. I mean, it is. Yeah, you never know what you're going to endure, and you're never going to know what you're going to encounter. And the swimming community is not that big, so when you go to training camps, you meet people from all over the world, and you run into them at the next event, or you run into them at next camp, and it's a very small circle of people, and it's like a big family.
Yeah, I think obstacle course racing, we have a lot of participants, but there's like a core group you'll always find at every event, or in a specific area. So I can definitely relate to that, and I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that. But it seems like I would imagine the marathon swimming community is very, very small. Like I said, as an endurance athlete, I look at your workout posts, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I can't even fathom some of these things. So very impressive.
Well, I've been asked that before in other in other interviews, and I don't see there's a big difference. I mean, you have people that run 24 hours. You have people that bike for 48 hours, even longer than that, nonstop. I just do the same thing, but I'm swimming.
Right.
So it's just my cup of tea, to do this crazy stuff, and I do it swimming.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I don't know. I have like an aversion to swimming, I guess. I don't know. So out of all of these, these your experiences and all these swim competitions you've done, what's the biggest lesson you think you can pull out of that and apply to other sports?
Well, I think it is a general life lesson, and that is that first of all, you have to accept who you are. And there's other people, no matter what you do in life, other people is always going to have an upper hand, or they're going to have better abilities. This guy has been on a swim team, for his whole life. And you have to accept who you are, and you have to start there, and you have to start building from that. Don't look at this other guy that's been swimming for the past 15 years on a swim team. Look at who you are. Where do you want to go? Set your goals and achieve one stepping stone at a time. And that's how you get there.
That's a great answer. I love that. Especially in obstacle course racing, we have a lot of people who are maybe not very active beforehand, and they come into the sport and they see all this crazy stuff and they get overwhelmed with the number of events and stuff. So I think that really applies to our community. And, same thing with me. For my endurance career, I just take baby steps, but I've continually taken baby steps forward for like a decade. So like people look at where I'm at now and the things I do now, and they're like, well, that's insane. And it's like, well, yeah, it's insane now, but 2 years ago it was also insane. But I've taken so many baby steps up to this point that it continually pushes that limit just a little bit further. So
yeah, exactly, because I do not so much this past year, but I do coaching, and of course it's mostly open water swimming coaching, and Uh, I enjoyed the most to coach rookies, new people to the open water swimming event, and try to help them how to get started in open water swimming. And the first thing I ask them or tell them is that you can't look at me and say, okay, he's such an awesome swimmer. I started somewhere too, and I've never been on a swim team ever in my life. So you have to accept that.
So since you brought it up, if someone is listening to this and wants to get into marathon swimming, what steps should they take, or what resources should they go to start down that road?
Start with a 1K. There's many local. Don't go for something big. Start with a 1K. Work your way up from there. Just take something local that's low key. Find a coach to help you, because you have to learn how to sight properly, and not just sight forward. You have to learn how to sight to the side. When I swim and I have a pilot, I never sight forward. I sight to the side because the boat is to the side. If I look up, if I lift my head, I slow down. So finding a coach is a key, but then also just, start with a 1K, move up to a 5K, and then you have to figure out how to fuel in the water, and then move up to a 10K, and now you start thinking about, okay, what are you going to do after a 10K? So that's how you start out.
Baby steps, just keep moving forward.
Yep.
I like how you brought up the sighting, because the first time I did a triathlon in open water, I suddenly realized that I couldn't see lane lines, and it was much more difficult to swim in a straight line, right? I'm like zigzagging all over the place, all this wasted energy. So
Correct.
Almost forgot to bring that up.
And even for triathletes, it helps a lot if you learn how to sight on the buoys. If you have an out and back, I did Ironman Florida 2009, which was an out and back course twice. So you have buoys on the side, and you don't have to really sight forward. You can sight to the side.
Gotcha. So with your big swims coming up here in about 12 days, this will actually be released after the swim probably. But what other future plans do you have beyond this amazing swim you have coming up?
Right.
Or you're just not even looking that far?
Go camping. Right. The plan right now is finish this swim, and then I'm probably going to take a little bit of time off, because it's been a lot of swimming this last year, and then I take one thing at a time. I mean, there's several swims that I'm interested in, but that's, we'll see what happens after England to France. Well, I don't know at this point.
Gotcha. Are you taking your wife on a nice vacation afterwards, or is it all business?
She's my crew chief in England, so she'd be in charge when we're over there, and we'll see what we planned. Right now, we're just yes, will be the answer. She's sitting next to me.
Yeah, that's how I sucker my wife into all these trips. I'm like, yeah, we'll go. We'll do an 8-hour race in UK, and then we'll go to Ireland for 10 days. And she's like, fine. So you gotta compromise there somehow. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. But she's moving up in the swimming world too, and she's planning some swims next year. So next year is her year, and my year to pilot her.
Gotcha. So she does marathon swimming also?
Yeah, she's working up to that. Yes, she is. Okay,
so she's basically just as crazy as you are with this stuff.
She's getting there.
Getting there, yeah. She's on that glide path. Yeah.
Yes.
So. All right. Well, good to hear. Any final? Actually, before we go, what do you want the world to know about marathon swimming from an outsider? So, like, most of us have never had any experience in that realm. So, anything you want the rest of the world to know about marathon swimming?
Well, it's not a spectator sport. It's I mean, with GPS today, it's kind of interesting because you can check somebody's progress during a swim anywhere in the world. If you post it, like my track will be posted on Facebook, and you can track, the whole swim during a day or sometimes a night and a day, and it's a very interesting sport, and most people are very laid back, and it's a wonderful thing to do because you get to travel all over the world if you want to, and there's always somewhere you can swim.
Gotcha. Well, very interesting. This has been a fascinating episode for me. I found out a lot more than I didn't even really know this was like I mean, I guess I always knew it was a thing, but because whenever there's a sport, there's always someone willing to take it to the extreme. But definitely opened my eyes on a lot of different things here. Any final? Yep.
One extra thing that I didn't think we mentioned, but last year I did some ice swimming.
Oof.
So
what's that like?
Well, water freezes at 32 degrees, and I signed up for a weekend of racing up in Vermont, where we cut a 2-lane pool out of the ice, a 25-meter pool, and we jumped in and we swam races, and the water temperature was 30.6.
Jeez.
And no wetsuits. We swim skin.
I think I remember you posting pictures of that in the Hammer Nutrition group, or sharing your post from that.
Yeah. And the longest I swam was I swam a 200-meter, and that was very, very interesting.
So I imagine, besides the horribly cold temperatures, a lot of that you just got to kind of like man up and really strengthen your mind and then just kind of go for it. Is that the technique? Or is there something secret I'm missing?
Well, I mean, a 25 or maybe even a 50-meter race, most people could handle. Anything over that, you have to train for it. Because it is dangerous. I mean, there's no joke about it. And, I mean, a 200 took me 3 minutes and 44 seconds to swim, and I mean, you're swimming in water that technically is not water anymore.
Yeah.
So
it sucks your breath away, right? Like when you jump in?
Yes. The key is you cannot hold your breath.
Okay.
I mean, when you go into water, anything below, I would say 40, actually probably 50 for most people, is you have to blow the air out. There's never a problem to get the air in, but if you start hyperventilating, is that you shallow breathing and you're not getting the carbon monoxide out of your lungs. So you have to blow everything out as hard as you can. And after a while, when everything is numb and you can't feel anything, it's kind of interesting.
Totally not anywhere close to the same level, but we have one obstacle in one of the series, or a couple of series actually, where they essentially use an ice bath, and not even close, because you're basically in the water for, I don't know, 10 seconds maybe, and you have to fully submerge. There's usually like a barrier that you go under, but a lot of times it depends on the race, but sometimes it actually feels nice because you're hot and the ice bath feels nice. But it's very brief, and depending on the race series, sometimes there's a lot of ice, so sometimes it's pretty bad, and then other times it's like a lot of it's melted, so it's not too bad. But I'm not swimming at all. I'm essentially walking through.
I think I've seen those. There's like a big shipping container.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Wow. Cool. Anything else you want to share? This has been pretty cool.
No, I mean, I think we cover everything I got on my notes. Of course, I want to thank Hammer Nutrition for all the support they give me with all the fuel and all the supplements they give me. So it is essential when you start getting to this level of any kind of exercise. Is you have to have the right fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone's listening wants a discount, referral number 240887 gets you 15% off your first order. I know I didn't point out a lot of the crossover points with OCR in this episode, but I'm sure if you're listening and you've listened to some of my other podcasts with other athletes that are not OCR specific, you can pull the crossover points out for yourself. But Anders, it's been great having you on. Very interesting topic. Crush it in 2 weeks, and I'm curious and excited to see your post-event results on Facebook.
Thank you very much. I appreciate talking to you.
All right. I'll catch up with you later.
Okay. Bye now.